Coming up on today's show, the grabber is back and he brought his ice skates. Find out what he does with them when we go over the Black Phone 2. Stay tuned.
What do you think happens when you die in a dream? It's time to find out.
Welcome to the Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. And I am your host, Arturo Padilla. And with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. Before we get started, do not forget to subscribe down below and hit the thumbs up button. Tex, how are you today, buddy? What do we got for the lovely people out there?
Howdy, everybody. Howdy, Arturo. Just as you said, we have the Black Phone 2, which is, setting the table a bit. It's a sequel to the Black Phone, which was something that kind of went under the radar. I think, like, when it came out, you happened to go see it in theaters as I don't think it was one of those things where you were like, oh, gotta go see it. It was just like, oh, let's go see what this is about, right?
Yeah, it was just another horror movie that came out. And you know me, when there's a new horror movie out there, I want to try and watch it in theaters to support the people out there. And this was just a random movie. What was it? Another Blumhouse effort that just came
Yeah,
out. And we're
it,
like, okay, let's see what happens here.
yeah, it didn't seem like it was a big deal, but then afterwards you were like, yo, this is awesome. And I didn't see it until like it streamed on Peacock like months
Yeah.
later. And then when I finally saw it, I was like, oh, this is awesome. So when part 2 gets announced, we were immediately both thinking, okay, how is this going to work? Because part 1 seemed like such a condensed story, right? Like it
Yeah.
seemed so self-contained, it was so tight. Like it really was just a kid versus a serial killer until getting the help of kids ringing off a ghost phone, which was like cool gimmick, cool everything. You got Ethan Hawke as the killer, and it was like super neat. And so when a sequel gets announced and a sequel happens and you see the trailers, and all of a sudden this dude is like Freddy Krueger going through dreams and
Yeah.
stuff, it immediately raised both questions and, honestly, dude, like
Yeah.
red flags, like kind of like, okay, little alerts started
Yeah.
popping up
Yeah.
of like, okay, what is actually going on here?
Yeah, I remember when the teaser dropped and we talked about it here on the Morgue. If you can go back to the archives, we have it on one of our coming attractions. And we had no clue what to expect because the trailer looked so discombobulated. You didn't know what the story was, what was going on. It looked interesting. It looked like there was something going
Yeah,
on here, and it was going to be a completely different take than what we got in the first one. And
yeah,
then the story trailer dropped, right?
yeah.
And we saw more about what was going to happen. And as Tex mentioned, it took the Freddy Krueger angle of it all. And we were like, okay, we can roll with this. We can dig
We
this,
can work
right?
with it. Yeah,
Yes,
like,
exactly. We can
yeah.
work with this, right?
And so Black Phone 2, without getting into spoilers here at the Morgue, this is how we do things. It is Ethan Hawke has the grabber. I did not remember the killer's name in the first one, so hearing him now called as the grabber and is like, okay, maybe I should have rewatched part 1, but I honestly think you just kind of need to know that the main character, Finney, he survived, and now Black Phone 2 takes place about, I think it was like 5 years or something after that, and in the first one, he gets, there's a mysterious phone where he hears the calls of the souls of the kids that Ethan Hawke's killer had taken out before.
Yeah.
And he was only saved because his sister kind of had these dreams, these psychic powers that kind of told him where he was, or told her where he was. And part 2 is kind of like an expansion of that stuff. All that supernatural stuff is kind of bigger and more prominent. The sister now is now more of the central focus as she's starting to get dreams of these
Yeah.
other kids who've been killed by a mysterious person. And it turns out that this is all leading to a mysterious camp in the middle of a mountain somewhere
Yeah,
where
somewhere in
these
Colorado.
yeah, and these kids were killed like years ago, and now Finney and his sister are here to like try and figure out what's going on. All the while, Ethan Hawke's grabber is a ghost messing around in their dreams, and yeah, that's kind of like there's a lot going on, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a huge just even like giving out like the base story. It's like, okay, we're really like it's going it this is a sequel in all definitions of the word.
Yeah, I mean, Tex, honestly, after I saw part one, and I'm pretty sure you felt the same way, after you saw that first one, you were like, okay, great. This was a great story. Awesome. And then hearing that there was a sequel, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
what are they gonna do here? You know?
Yeah,
Excuse me.
yeah, exactly.
But that said, it's a thing of like, did they reach too far, right? In
Yes,
this movie?
yes.
That is really the question that you as the viewer have to ask yourself. Did did Derrickson reach too far with this sequel? The answer to that really lies on what you're looking for. I, for one, do like the story that is being constructed in this movie. I think the story could have been done a little bit more tighter, honestly. It is long, and you
Yeah,
really feel that weight of that length, especially in the middle of the movie in the second act, where everything just kind of lulls and drags. You do get a slew of new characters that are introduced, but unfortunately, not much is done with them. And
yeah,
that's where my gripe is with this movie, that you have this length, and then you have these characters that don't do much, and we stray away from the main story for a while to focus on these other people for not really much at all. And that's my big thing here. It's like, okay, we could have told this story in a more in a quicker paced movie too, because it is a fast pace, the story, when it comes to the actual focal point. It does move quickly. It's
yeah.
not yeah,
Like
yeah,
once the grabber shows up, it kicks
yes,
into gear,
yeah,
and you can see the gears finally start turning.
yes,
But
exactly.
it is like Arturo said, it is a slow burn. Like the first I would range about third of the movie is kind of setting this up. It's very like it's a compliment sandwich, right? Like there are good things here, right? When it does these extended dream sequences, and through that, Derrickson kind of does some tricks with the camera to kind of really put you in that kind of
Yeah.
ethereal like state, kind of mess around with your head a little bit to kind of be like, okay, it's clear that Gwen, the sister, is in this dream and she's
Mhm.
seeing this stuff happen, and through that there are some like brutal kills in the beginning, and it's through that they are kid deaths, so it's able to like get around it by the way it's like shot, and it hides things well, instead of like it's not
It's not
it's
kid
not
print, right?
yes, it's not like sitting you in it, but also it's not afraid to like it's not cutting away from things
Yeah,
either,
like
so like it's very artfully done.
I definitely agree 100%. And that's one of the aspects I did enjoy about this movie. Yes, there were not many kills, unfortunately, but the ones that we did get on screen, the ones that mattered, I think they did a good job showcasing the violence of the grabber in those scenes without really going too explicit and in your face and being unnecessarily gory with it. Don't get me wrong, it is gory. You get blood, you get like a lot of stabbing and a lot of close-up shots, but they use the close-ups wisely to mask the kid's face. You don't really see the face when this is going on, and the pace of that scene is fast paced and it is very grainy, so it does help in showcasing that brutality without really kind of throwing it all in your face like a Terrifier movie or something like that, right, Tex?
Yeah, like, and and then we also get to see that brutality in effect, like, it's
Yes.
just like the first one, this isn't really a spoiler that these ghost boys show up, the ghost kids, just like the first one, but this one they're a little bit more brutal, like one gets his head, like his face cut in half,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
the
he
movie
does.
the movie does stuff with that
Yeah,
visual that's like, oh, okay, so you get the brutality there.
you do.
It's just that, when you get into like what Arturo was alluding to earlier, it's like it's the mileage will vary with this stuff because while all this happens within the slow burn of an intro, and the gears start turning when the grabber himself, once Ethan Hawke like really starts getting into it, this is where it's like kind of like the make or break. And like this is where like the Freddy Krueger stuff kicks in. And it's more like that ultimately might be like a bad comparison. Like I don't know if you want to like kind of be in that same ballpark because it's a game that the grabber does not win. Because you have
Yes.
Freddy Krueger and you think Freddy Krueger, you think dream powers, and you think like you automatically think of like all the kind of possibilities that a villain, a monster can do within a dream because he's not just a dude anymore. Like he's not supposed to be just a dude.
Yeah.
But in this sequel, he's still kind of a dude. Like he's still kind of just the guy. Like he's still kind of just the killer.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
like even when he starts doing stuff, like it's cool to get that Freddy Krueger like moment of seeing like you see it in the trailers. He like attacks Gwen and you see her body reacting to everything happening in her dream as it's happening. And like and the film does good stuff with this, but like it's kind of it. Like he's just a dude attacking her in a dream and there's no
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's no
There's no
creativeness.
fantastical
Yeah.
dream-like powers. I remember,
Yeah.
Tex mentioned off air, definitely have to give you credit because you mentioned how in Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger does these wild bonkers-like things in these dream
Yeah.
states where his arms elongate, he becomes your Q-tip, becomes a television, does all these things. We don't get that here. So the comparison to Nightmare on Elm Street, it's not really like that
It's not
fair at all,
yeah.
you know?
But it
But
sucks because that's what it's trying to do,
yeah,
right? Like,
exactly. But yeah, unfortunately, that is exactly what the film is trying to convey, that dreams do have powers and that things that happen in dreams can affect reality and such and such. But it doesn't do it as well as A Nightmare on Elm Street, unfortunately, and also, of course, not.
it's a problem with being a sequel to such a tight movie too on top of this, right? So like
Yeah,
when you get the sequel, it's expanded on and you're like you have that longer opening and you're like, all right, it's like, okay, we're getting what you're doing. You're setting this up, right? And you're like, okay, he's Freddy Krueger, but then by a certain point you kind of hope that we get the payoff of that, right? Like you kind of
yeah,
hope that it's like we
yeah.
get to see the grabber. Like
it,
if
it,
he's the
it kind of gets
grabber now.
lazy in the third act and kind of
Yeah.
it kind of lost its wind, throughout the second act and all that length that it had to go through it in order to finally finish. And unfortunately, it doesn't really deliver on the entire premise. And as I mentioned earlier, the length only adds to that. And that is why it really doesn't hit the way the first one did. But like Tex
Yeah.
mentioned, it is a sequel. And because it is a sequel that no one really anticipated or expected, it does do some things different and interesting that the first one didn't do. The first one had a more grounded story. Yes, it had the kids on the phone, the ghost stuff going on, but it was a story grounded in reality. These people were flesh and blood. The grabber was real, Finney was real. Everything happening there had consequences in the real world. In Black Phone 2, we jump around from real world to dream world to a mix of both sometimes, and it gets a little confusing in terms of story because you don't really understand what the grabber can actually do, like what the length of his powers are, how,
Yeah.
like, what can
Yeah.
he really do, because you see him affect the environment, you see him affect physical stuff, right? And the grabber, he has his limitations, but we don't know exactly what they are. Even at the end of the movie, we don't know exactly what he can do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think they really kind of wrote themselves into a corner for no reason with that, because they could have definitely expanded a heck of a lot on that. Because throughout the movie, you see him affecting the people physically, and then you actually see people who are not affected by the grabber see what's going on with Finney and see what's going
Yeah,
on with Quinn.
it's
So
it's
it
a
gets kind
it's
of
a really
confusing.
yeah, it's a really cool sequence. I'll give it that. And like that's the thing. It's like I like Arturo was saying, there's so much you want to give this credit for like making a story out of nothing, basically. Like this is, it is a very good idea. You have two characters who survived the first film. It's really dealing with their PTSD. They're like, they're teenagers, so they're dealing with teenage angst on top of that.
Yeah.
And it's like you get a little bit of that in here, but what what Arturo is saying is like it's creating this killer, this monster, and what you don't want to do along with all of this is start kind of making us question the rules, right? Like
Yes.
you kind of with like what takes away the mystique of any killer, of any monster, is having us as an audience sit there and go, well, how does this work? And rather than us having fun with the abilities and showing the grabber being like, oh, he can interact with stuff and people see him interacting with stuff who are not even in the dream. They just happen to be nearby and see it. And you get these cool moments from that. But there's also, like Arturo said, there are strange limitations to what he can do. He never like modifies his body despite being a ghost. Like he's still very like he has these cool ice skates made out of
Yeah.
like where he's walking around barefoot and he like and they're molded out of ice on his feet. And that's the most monster thing he does, which is like
Yeah. That
it,
and rip
it's
his
it,
mask off,
yeah,
which is
and
a
it's a
cool moment.
little
But you see that in the trailer, unfortunately.
yeah, like that would have been like that was I definitely feel like that's a third act reveal.
There's some really killer practical makeup here being done
Yes.
on the grabber. And I wish they would have done more with that because it looked really cool and he was just
Yeah,
like,
because
doing his
it's
thing.
and this is what we're getting at. It's like you have a sequel, it's so much bigger, you have so many characters, you're making this grabber to be like a monster. And ultimately, what does he do? And spoilers, not much. Like in terms of
Yeah.
like actual deaths we get on screen, I don't think we get any. Like I that's a spoiler in of itself. Like he kills kids and that's his whole thing, and he does it in the he does it in the opening scene. Like this is all set up to get to these things, and it's like, well, cool, I guess that like he did all this stuff, and it's like, but you get all that with the first one, right? Like you
Yeah.
got already all this stuff, but now now it's feeling real Blumhousey. It's feeling real Megan 2.0 of like
Yeah. That's a great
let's
point.
make let's make the grabber somebody, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Yep.
same argument we had with Terrifier and Art the Clown, right? Where we're like, yo, this really feels like an industry plant. Like he came out of nowhere and all of a sudden he's a horror icon. Kids are wearing the masks, like they're all over Spirit
Yeah.
Halloweens
My
this
daughter
year.
loves the Terrifier movies too. She's all into that stuff. And I'm like, oh
Yeah,
God.
it's so like, but at least with Art the Clown, I will give them credit that, it found the audience. And when
Yes.
you think like, oh, if you want a gore fest, it's there. And Art the Clown does things, so
Yes.
regardless of your feelings of Art the Clown, like mine, where I'm like, okay, I don't care about him,
Like,
he's
I
he's
get
no
it. Let's move
Jason,
on.
right?
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, agreed.
but he does things compared to the grabber who's like in Fortnite. And you're like, well, what did you do to like earn, like what did you do to earn that kind of level of like this?
Yeah,
I think yeah, right, like on the grander scale, I think that's where I'm sitting with this movie, where I'm
yeah,
like,
because
you're
also
really trying to make it happen,
you mentioned
know.
Terrifier and how Terrifier just kind of stuck its landing, right? Like and found its
Right,
home, right? So that's because Terrifier knew what it was, right? It
you're
knew what it
right,
was.
yeah,
It stayed in its lane, right? And
and
as
it
I said
delivered,
before, it
yeah.
stuck its landing, and Tex just mentioned it delivered. This one, unfortunately, didn't stay in its lane, and you couldn't really stay in that lane because that first story was just all wrapped up. It was
Yeah,
done. It was nothing more that we wanted from from those characters and that narrative. This is why this one coming out was such a surprise. It's like, okay, I get you caught a big, surge in views when it hit streaming because of the word of mouth and everything like that. I'm pretty sure they also re-released it or something in theaters, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But part one was part one, and
Yeah.
that's where I stand here as well, Tex. With the first one, you got such a really tight story, really well acted. Ethan Hawke was just awesome, and it
And
was
he's,
a
and
spark.
he's good here. Like that's the thing
Yes,
too. Like
yeah,
I think like going back to compliment sandwiches, right?
yes,
For as many problems as I had with its length and what it was trying to do, right? With the grabber character himself, Ethan Hawke is really going for it. So
yeah.
that's the thing. Like
He knows exactly what he has to do because even he was
yes.
like, "What are we doing with a sequel?" So I think the only way to get him back was to do something really interesting and different, which again, he nails it. Ethan
Yeah.
Hawke he's a pro,
Yes.
as well as Madeline McGraw as Gwen and Mason Thames as Finney. Those three from the first one are just pros. Freaking,
Yeah.
they're a lock. Even in part two here, do not worry about their performances. They are awesome. They carry the scenes that they are in. And this is why I am so upset about that chunk in the middle that
Where
drastically slows down
yeah,
and goes away from them, man, because
we get
that's where
so
we have
many
to
new
focus.
we get so many new characters from this camp that they go to, and it's like, and some of them are like antagonistic in a way where it's like, and you're like, okay, so it's setting up fodder, right? Like you're setting up that Grabber is going to go through this camp and start taking out these people one by one, and here's the person who's like, anti-devil, and like, oh, doesn't want to talk about the past, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, these
here's the
religious people
here
who run the camp.
Yeah, and here's Damian Bashir, once again, underrated guy who's like, he's the Jimon Honsu of like Latino actors, where it's
Yes,
like, yo,
yes.
if you see him in a movie, you're like, good. Like, here's a solid guy who's like gonna give us a solid performance. He's just a character actor that you're like, okay, when you see him, you're like, okay, I don't
Yeah,
have to worry about
he
you,
was
right?
good in The Nun as well. Like
Yeah,
a terrible movie, but he
but
was really
he's
solid in
good.
that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's legit one of those guys that you see in the
absolutely.
movie and you're like, thank you for being in this. We can at least rely on somebody. And for his credit, he's good as like the priest, but even then, to like the
He does
movie's
play a good priest.
discredit, yeah,
Yeah.
to the movie's discredit, the movie really doesn't do anything with him. And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yes. You get his character giving several monologues
yes.
throughout the movie, and you're like, "Okay, cool, Armando, what are we doing here? Like,
Yes.
what are you doing? Like, what is your purpose here?" And then his purpose really he has one, but unfortunately, he deserved more, in my opinion, because
Yeah, because he's like
he
the mentor character
yes,
kind
yeah,
of for Finney,
yes,
but
and
like they
he's the character that's been around since the
yeah,
beginning of this camp existence and knows the history and stuff. So to have him not do more, I think was also a big disservice. Because as Tex mentioned, solid actor. You want to give him more. If you can lean on him as much as you can, on top of your other exceptional young talent, right? Then do that. But they didn't do that here. And that's why, unfortunately, I'm griping so much because you had the time. Like, you
yeah,
had the freaking
this movie
runtime.
definitely does have the
Yes,
time to
you
like
had the
do
runtime.
things.
You
Yes.
were clocking in at a minute, I wish, at an hour and 54 minutes, at an hour and 54 minutes, right? And
Yeah.
I feel that we got a really solid 45 minutes out of that. And the
Yeah,
rest,
because
I think, was kind of just like, what are we doing with
yeah,
this?
because that's the danger with this sequel, and it being a sequel to the Black Phone, and it being a sequel in such a way, right? Like it's because, for as much credit as horror fans like us and as movie fans want to give this movie for like doing this character in this way, right? Like there's so much credit you can give it to being this kind of story for the sequel, right? To
Yes.
finding a reason to make another movie. And it's not just, oh, he's back in Haddonfield again. It's like, oh, oh, it's the next week's Friday the 13th or something, right? Oh, they put Chucky back together.
It's
No,
like,
it's
oh,
like,
he's grabbing more kids, folks.
yeah, no, it's like they found a unique way of like, okay, the grabber's dead.
Yeah.
Let's bring him back as a ghost in dreams and let's do stuff that way. But like, because it goes for such a big idea, there are so many little things that like hinder it, right? It's like it makes you start, because it's so long and because it's like so kind of bloated in that sense of like needing to introduce characters and not doing anything with them, you start to question, like, okay, then no one died. No one, it was anyone in real danger? I don't know. The people who were struck by, Grabber, they kind of disappear from the rest of the movie. And it's like, okay, so did they die? And it's just bringing up a lot of stuff that it didn't need to. And that's the double-edged sword. Like you have a good idea, but in the way you're pursuing it, it kind of like starts making all these little flaws that weren't around in the franchise before, right? And I think ultimately, I think that's the issue with Black Phone 2. It's just like it almost went too big, I would say, right?
Yes, the idea definitely was a little bit bigger than what the execution was able to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I think, am I glad this is out there? Is a question you can also ask yourself. Is I don't know, honestly, because
Yeah.
I
I
kind
mean,
of feel like
yeah.
I really liked the grabber history and aura, as the kids say these
Yeah,
days,
like
from the
as a
first one.
character, right?
Yes,
Like
exactly.
as the character, you
As
get.
because honestly, Tex, like, I'm sorry to interrupt. They did such a good job with the first one that
Yeah,
he already had this.
he had the aura, like
He
he
had the
had the.
aura of
Yeah,
dominance behind him because of the history they built into the movie, his
yeah,
lore. And by doing this, it's like, okay, you want to add that cool stuff to it, but was it really necessary?
yeah, and even then, like it has the opposite effect of
Yeah.
like, oh, he really is just a dude. Like he's literally just a guy, and like even as a ghost, it's like, oh, does he have cool ghost powers? It's like, no, not really. Like he kind of like messes with people a little bit. Like there are cool like visuals of like the doing the mask iconography in different kind of shapes and stuff and snow and all that, and cool ideas. But like when it comes down to the nitty gritty of like, okay, we need this monster to deliver, it doesn't. And
Yeah. And then
that's
it brings up
where.
the question, like, it brings up two questions. One, did they intend to have a sequel? And two, if there was an intention to have a sequel, did you kill him off too early? You know what I mean? Because,
Yeah,
like, in order to do this kind of movie, you need to have a little bit more of him doing his thing in the real world before we can go to the ethereal realm, with the other
right
ghosts.
before.
Because yeah,
Yeah,
because honestly, Tex, like, I thought that this movie was gonna give us more of him in that realm. You know how the kids were in that ghost realm answering the phone? I thought those kids were gonna need Finney's help and Gwen's help to defeat him in that realm now, because now he's back after them or something. I thought something like that was gonna happen. Unfortunately, I was wrong. We got something a little bit different, a little bit more simple.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it does get to like an emotional ending, and that's the thing. Like once again, going back to the compliment sandwich, for as many times as I will like deride this movie for some of its choices,
it has good
there
things.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some others. Like when it gets to the ending, there's a climax that like I'm like, oh, that actually got to me. Like there's
Yes,
an
agreed.
emotional moment
Agreed.
like that really kind of seals up the. And that's another thing where it's like, oh, how do you continue? I don't
Yeah,
know. And that's the
exactly.
thing.
And on
Like,
top of that,
are they
text like,
planning to? Right?
yes, what you like as well from the movie is exactly what I like. And you know what the main thing there is? It just focuses on those two main characters from part
Yeah.
one. The part Tex is referring to has zero to do with any of the ancillary characters that
Yeah.
were in this movie. So this is why I'm disappointed, because you threw us all of that for such a heavy amount of time and do nothing with that. Where you could
Yeah.
have just kind of cut that shit right in the middle and just put the bread together and just had bread, with some butter, and you
I
would
mean,
have been
yeah,
good.
sometimes a grilled cheese is just what you need, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes you don't
You
need to
don't
go
need
as
that
far
fancy
as like,
meat. You don't need the fancy cold cuts. You know
yeah,
what I
you
mean?
don't like sometimes you don't want to eat a whole burger. Like sometimes
Yes.
a really good grilled cheese is like all you need to like
Yeah.
have a satisfying meal. And
Yeah.
like, you can even put like cool cheeses in it, right? Like, but th- this is just kind of like it went too far. Like it just like it kind of gone. It went to the point where, and it lasted for such a long time that even during the good parts, there were times where I found myself going, "Well, what? How does that? Like I was
Yes.
like, well, how does this
Yes.
work? How is everything work?"
Yes.
And that's that ruins the fun of the movie. Like it's like I don't care who you are. Like you don't have to be like watching a ton of movies like we do for the show. It's just like as soon as you start like thinking outside of the movie and stop having fun with it, this is where you like it loses you.
Yeah. 100% agree, folks. You guys know how we do it here at the morgue, right? There's stay away from it, which means do not watch this thing. Do not pay for it. Do not even go to your couch to watch it at home.
Yeah,
Then
you won't be missing out on
you
anything.
won't miss
That's
out
yeah.
anything. And then there's wait for it, which means you can skip the movie theater and you can skip the free trial and just wait for it to come down to a free streaming opportunity in the comfort of your own couch. And lastly, we have pay for it, which is you go to the movie theater ASAP, you buy a movie ticket and you pay for the free trial of the streamer that it's on so you can
Yeah.
watch it
See it.
immediately.
Yeah, see it as soon as you can see it. That's
Yes.
it's like the immediacy of what we're trying to get
Yes.
across. And
So,
so how you feeling, Arturo? Where you feeling with our our rating?
man, Tex, like after our conversation, we've been dabbling with this conversation for several days now. And I'm a little disappointed, man. I wish we got a bit more focus on Finney and Gwen because I was interested in their journey. Finney has this crazy trauma that he's trying to get through, and Gwen is going through some crazy dream stuff with her, clairvoyance and all that. So I wish we kind of stuck there and stuck that landing. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say it's a wait for it for me. I do like the fact that technically it looks good. There's tons of practical effects in here. The violence looks good. And you know me, I like that stuff. But the story lacks in certain places, and so do the characters. And that's why it's a wait for it for me. Tex, what say you, my man?
I am in the same boat. Like, for as much as I liked many elements of it, and for as much as I will defend, the idea of expanding your story in this way, like going for it, like shooting for the moon. It's that common like saying of the shoot for the moon, you land in the stars or whatever. And it's like, yeah, sometimes you just,
Sometimes you don't even make it out of the atmosphere,
yeah,
you
it's
know?
like it's a wait for it. It's check this out. Like it's on the level of like when it's finally streaming on Peacock, just like Black Phone One. Check it out then. But if not, it's also in that ballpark of like, oh, just watch the first one. Like honestly, like if if you're watching this review and you have not seen the first one, sorry about how we spoiled the first one, but like it's kind of like no, just watch the first one. Like it's so much tighter, it's so much of a better movie, and for all the credit we give this one on like trying, you tried it, but it's like yeah, sometimes to go back to that metaphor, sometimes you just want a grilled cheese.
A nice grilled cheese with excellent cheddar is all you
Yeah.
really need sometimes, and a great nice toast with it's crispy. Go check out Black Phone. It is on Peacock. I highly recommend you watch that during spooky season. There's still time, and just watch it in general as a movie. It is
Yeah.
fantastic, and you will not be disappointed. Wait until this one drops, as Tex mentioned. And folks, thank you so much for listening to The Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. I am your host, Arturo Padilla, and with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. Go check out our socials. We are everywhere. Like, subscribe, and share. Most importantly, check out our YouTube. Like the button down below, subscribe, do all that cool stuff, ding, 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 all that awesome stuff. And also, do not forget, we are all the podcast streams, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are still there, folks. Go drop us a review. We would highly appreciate it. And lastly, but most importantly, always remember it is a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.